in this video, I want to talk about Jennifer Rosenbaum's acquaintances, or at least some of her acquaintances, and what they all had in common, and why it was that she would have picked those people. Jordan Hall has cerebral palsy, so that's her vulnerability. That's why she needs to be in a wheelchair. As you can see from the way she talks, she's perfectly able to think. There's nothing wrong with her mentally.
And where were you when you were introduced to Jennifer Rosenbaum?
I was at my mother's home.
And tell me about that conversation when you met Jennifer Rosenbaum.
Well, at first it was very normal. You know, she was just introducing herself, letting me know about the internship. But then we started to talk about our lives in general, and she told me that she was fostering children at the time. And one thing that struck me as a little alarming was that she said that the children that she was fostering, she had interacted with them before because they were the biological children of a previous foster family she had been with.
And what did she tell you about those biological parents of the children?
She said that the mother was a meth addict and that Karma was a bitch because now she would be taking care of those meth addicts' children.
How did it make you feel when she made those statements?
I felt very uncomfortable, first of all, because it was my first time meeting Miss Rosenbaum, and that just did not seem like a normal statement to me. So I told my mom from that point on I didn't want to interact with her by myself at all, if possible.
Jennifer Rosenbaum usually wore a mask and came across to people as this kind, caring, generous, church-going lady who had fostered Layla and Millie and cared for them a lot. But why would it be that with her neighbour Jordan Hall she let down her guard and showed this rather dark side? I think the reason is because she felt comfortable enough to do that. She felt like she probably wasn't going to be judged. That's the only thing that really makes sense. And why would she feel that Jordan Hall wouldn't judge her? I think the reason is because she made an assumption that Jordan, having a disability, would be less inclined to judge Jennifer. And I think the reason she had that assumption is because of her own contempt for other people. A narcissist will have contempt for those people that might be considered weaker people in society. And when I say weaker, I don't mean, of course, that they're genuinely weaker or that Jordan Hall was. She's clearly all there mentally. She just has a bit of a physical difficulty. But from the point of view of a narcissist, anyone in society that might be at a disadvantage will be someone they have contempt for. So somebody who has physical disabilities will be one of those people. Also, they might have contempt for gay people or for people of a different race, you know, from people of an ethnic minority, for women, just for anyone who has a weaker position in society. And so in this case, Jennifer's neighbour had this physical disability, and so Jennifer assumed that because she would have had contempt for her, that her neighbour would also have felt that way about herself, that she would have recognised herself as as less than someone like Jennifer, and therefore would be less inclined to judge her. Jennifer also did something that she thought would help to cement their relationship and keep her neighbour in a position of looking up to her, admiring her, and not judging her. Here's what she did.
And how do you know Jennifer Rosenbaum?
Jennifer was our neighbor at the time I was attending college, and she knew of the Georgia Legislative Internship Program, and so that is why we were introduced. I was lucky enough to be the recipient of the Georgia Legislative Internship, So I informed her, thanking her that I got accepted into the program.
A schema is what's called a cognitive framework. It's the way we interpret the world around us. So it's really like a belief, or a rule that we might have for ourselves. So somebody who has been at a social disadvantage since childhood might have the schema that they are less than everyone else. That there's something wrong with them, and that's called a defective schema. And somebody who doesn't have any kind of disability might also have a defective schema because they may have been abused when they were a child, and they might believe about themselves that they're unworthy or less than. And those people who have that schema are going to make an excellent target for a narcissist. Now, it might be that somebody like Jordan Hall doesn't actually have that schema. She seems to me to, from the little that we see of her, she seems like quite a confident young lady. So the reason that Jennifer would pick someone like her is, I think, both an assumption that she's going to have that schema. Obviously, she's not consciously thinking about schema, but I think it's an assumption that she's going to feel bad about herself. Another of Jennifer's acquaintances has learning difficulties, and she describes a time that she and Jennifer went out to lunch. When Alexis Battle's mother testified, she described how her daughter has learning difficulties, and although she's 21, she actually behaves like a 12-year-old.
Yes.
And how do you know Jennifer Rosenbaum?
She was an intern at my mom's office.
And when did you meet her?
I don't know. When?
Where were you when you met her?
At my mom's office.
And were you and Jennifer Rosenbaum friends?
Yeah.
When you were with Jennifer and the girls, how did she treat the girls?
She was nice to them. Yeah, nice to them.
Did you ever see her yell at them?
When was that? The Chick-fil-A. That's about it.
What happened at the Chick-fil-A?
I guess Millie. What's the name? The littlest one wasn't listening or whatever, and then she popped her. That's it.
When you say she popped her, who popped who?
Miss Jennifer popped Lily. Where with the littlest one name?
Layla.
Yeah, Layla.
Where did she pop Layla at?
On the butt.
What did she pop her with?
Her hand.
Did she pop her once or more than
Once.
I didn't hear you.
Once.
Okay. After that, what did Layla do?
Oh, she started crying.
And what did Miss Jennifer do?
Nothing.
Alexis Battle does come across as uncomfortable, anxious, insecure, and I'm sure that part of that is because she's having to testify in court. If she has the mental age of a 12-year-old, then that would be normal. But it would also mean that Jennifer might be right in seeing her as someone who might have this defective schema. Once again, Jennifer has shown her darker side to this vulnerable friend. Jennifer's husband, Joseph, had cystic fibrosis. And when somebody has a condition like that, apparently when he was a child, he found it hard to be social. It already put him at some disadvantage. So when someone has a health condition like that, they will be more vulnerable. That's not to say that Joseph isn't a narcissist himself. In my last video, I talked about how he may be a covert narcissist and why I think that that's likely. But having a health condition like that, especially from childhood, can give people a view of themselves that sets them apart from most people. If you have a belief that you are in some way defective, and someone who you don't think is defective comes along and offers to help and support you, speaks to you with respect and warmly, you're going to be really grateful for that. And you're going to feel like you don't really deserve it, and you're so lucky that this person's come into your life. You're going to really value them and admire them, and so you're going to make an excellent target for a narcissist. When it comes to people with physical disabilities or learning difficulties, if they've been in the right environment, if they've had a lot of support, they might have learnt that they're not defective, that they might not have that schema, they might feel perfectly good about themselves, and they might never have had that schema, if they've had the right support since they were children. But a narcissist can make an assumption based on their own projections, as I talked about a bit earlier. But when it comes to victims of abuse, that's different. That's when they use cognitive empathy, which is when I made a video about cognitive empathy, but it's about when they can understand how someone might be feeling without actually caring about it. So they can use that with victims of previous abuse who do think that they are less worthy than other people. They can pick up on that quite well, and they might actually be a lot more accurate at figuring out who would make a good target amongst those people. So I'm going to leave it here. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.